World War II began on September 1st, 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland and declared war on the world. As tensions rose, trust was very hard to find, even in their own people. America, forced to retaliate for the Japanese bombings of Pearl Harbor, signed a document that would change the view of Japanese American citizens for the time being. Thousands of Japanese American citizens were being sent to internment camps because of their misplaced hatred by the government. But I would like to focus on one of those proud Japanese American soldiers who turned their discrimination into a way to prove their loyalty to their country. His name, Daniel Inoyue. Daniel Inoyue was born on September 7, 1924, in Honolulu, Hawaii. Being a Nisei Japanese American, he lived in Mo'iliili and graduated from McKinley High School. When Pearl Harbor was bombed, he volunteered as a medical supervisor, but later faced a lot of discrimination and hate because of the recent internment camps, and the way the government made them look to American people. Daniel studied pre-med at the University of Hawaii and soon enlisted in the Army, trying to prove their loyalty to their country. He was soon promoted to sergeant and was put in charge of the famous All-Nisei 442nd Regimental Combat Team. There he led them to countless victories, including the rescue of the Lost Battalion, or the 141st Infantry Regiment, who were pinned down by German forces. But he is most famous for his raid on Italy's Po Valley, in which he destroyed 3 machine gun nests single-handedly, and in the end was shot in the stomach, leg, and lost his arm as well. He received the Purple Heart with 2 oak leaf clusters, the Bronze Star, the Distinguished Service Cross, and the Distinguished Service Crosses, which were later upgraded to Medals of Honor because of his heroism.
I've learned that in the heat of battle, we do certain things that in a sensible world you would not do. And apparently I must have been temporarily insane or something like that. And according to those who had observed what had happened, I behaved like Rambo, I think. According to the citation, I remember part of it, and looking back, I thought that was crazy. I recall being shot by a sniper or someone right through my gut, and I thought someone had punched me, until the messenger, who happened to be walking in the back of me, said, "By the way, you're bleeding in the back." And sure enough, when I touched it, there were 2 holes, one entry and the one the exit. But the pain was nothing great, and I had my job and obligation and mission to accomplish. So I said, let's keep on going, because that was the mission up there. And as we progressed, we came upon several machine gun nests. I think there were 3 of them. And luckily, the first one I was able to knock out with a couple of grenades. And then suddenly, a German stood up. That I remember. And he pointed a rifle at me, and I could see in the muzzle a grenade, one of those grenade launchers. And I thought, oh boy, he's going to fire at me and my whole body will explode. You know. He fired, and he, thank God, was a lousy shot. He hit my elbow. At that time, I had a grenade in my right hand, and I was about to throw that, and that's when I saw him, and he shot my elbow. And this part I remember. I looked around for the grenade, because the pin had already been pulled, and men were in the back of me, and I didn't want them to get shot at. So I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I look at my arm is dangling, and the grenade is firmly in the grip. You know, your muscles get frozen, I think. So I peeled it off and I threw it. My aim was good, fortunately. And then this is a part that I'm not too sure of, but the men remember this part. I picked up the gun with my left hand, my submachine gun. And I started moving forward to attack the last machine gun nest. And it must have been a bloody sight, with my arm dangling and blood spurting, and I'm firing this gun. And when you think back, it's crazy, and sometimes you chuckle about it. And believe me, there's no pain at all, because when you reach a certain threshold in any painful situation, the human body is a magnificent machine. It gives you relief. You don't feel it. But then, at that point, I suddenly found myself hit on my foot, my leg. Another shot fired, and so that knocked me, and I rolled down the hill. So at that point, there wasn't much I could do, and the men began rushing up and put on the tourniquet and sat there, and then I started to assemble the men and put them in places. I remained there for about an hour before I was evacuated. I wanted to make certain that the men were set in their places on defensive position before I left. Then I left.
After spending 20 months in many different Army hospitals, he was able to apply to the University of Hawaii, where he earned his Bachelor's of Arts degrees. Because he lost his arm, he was not able to continue his dream of becoming a doctor, but instead began to pursue law by attending George Washington University of Law in Washington, D.C. He then moved back to Hawaii and opened his own law firm, and then was appointed to city's public prosecutor, and then finally ran for territorial representative and senator. He was later admitted to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1959, representing the state of Hawaii. He served as senator for almost 20 years and then passed away on December 17, 2012, due to respiratory disease.